All right, good morning. We have a big day today, a full day today, a lot to get done. So we're going to try to be efficient and do that. So I want to call us back to order. And I recognize Kate Strathy and Nicole Silvernail to lead us in our morning worship.
Good morning. Worship may be found on the convention website, convention.ecww.org, on the Convention Liturgies page. Please rise if you are able to sing the invitation to worship. We give you thanks, O God. We give you thanks, calling upon your name and declaring all your wonderful deeds. Please be seated.
You water the mountains from your dwelling on high. The earth is fully satisfied by the fruit of your works. You make grass grow for flocks and herds, and plants to serve mankind, that they may bring forth food from the earth, and wine to gladden our hearts, oil to make a cheerful countenance, and bread to strengthen the heart. The trees of the Lord are full of sap, cedars of Lebanon, which he planted. As long as I live, I will praise my God while I have my being. May these words of mine please him. I will rejoice in the Lord. Let sinners be consumed out of the earth, and the wicked be no more. Bless the Lord, O my soul. Hallelujah.
And the waters that were gathered together he called seas, and God saw that it was good. Then God said, let the earth bring forth vegetation, plants yielding seed, and fruit trees of every kind on earth that bear fruit with the seed in it. And it was so. The earth brought forth vegetation, plants yielding seed of every kind, and trees of every kind bearing fruit with the seed in it. And God saw that it was good. And there was evening, and there was morning the third day.
Thanks be to God.
Please rise as you are able. Let us pray for the revealing of the reign of God in the world, now and always. In the beginning, here and now, in the future, Creator of earth, sea, and sky, kindle the fire of your Spirit within us, that we may be bold to heal and defend the earth and pour your blessing upon all who work for the good of the planet. God, giver of life, breath of life, receive our thanks for the beauty of our local habitat and all who dwell in it, and grant us the wisdom and will to conserve it. God, giver of life, source of life, heal and redeem the wounds of your creation, and visit the places and people who suffer from our indifference, neglect, and greed. God, giver of life, lover of all you have made, we thank you for the wondrous diversity of your creatures, and we pray for their well-being. God, giver of life, author of the book of nature, receive our gratitude for places of restoration and healing, and continue to bless those places that feed our lives and spirits. God, giver of life, giver of all good gifts, awaken us daily to our dependence upon your bounty, and make us always thankful for the abundance of your blessings. God, giver of life, our Father in heaven, hallowed be your name. Your kingdom come, your will be done, on earth as in heaven. Give us today our daily bread. Forgive us our sins, as we forgive those who sin against us. Save us from the time of trial, and deliver us from evil. For the kingdom, the power, and the glory are yours, now and forever. Amen.
Great Spirit God, we give you thanks for another day on this earth. We give you thanks for this day to enjoy the compassionate goodness of you, our Creator. We acknowledge with one mind our respect and gratefulness to all the sacred cycles of life. Bind us together in the circle of compassion to embrace all living creatures and one another. Amen.
Okay, let's thank Kate and Nicole for leading us in worship this morning. I'd like to acknowledge that I'm standing and we are gathered on the unceded ancestral land of the first people of Seattle, the Duwamish, and the Muckleshoot people, past and present, and I honor with gratitude the land itself and the Duwamish and Muckleshoot tribes. Today is our business session, and we're going to start with an introduction to the system we will use for elections, debate, and voting. And for that, I recognize our dispatch of business, Jamie Balducci.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. Hooray! Good morning, everyone. Welcome to a fun day of voting and debate. It's going to be great, and we're going to get it all figured out. First of all, our devices were labeled slightly differently than we anticipated today, so we have a couple of things to let you know about your devices. First thing, if you are in the room, please look to your table and collect the device that has your name on it. And do that now. Everyone should have a device with their name on it. Now, there are two things to know about this. The next question is, are you a delegate who is replacing someone else? If you are a delegate who is replacing someone else, you need to hold on to the device of the person you are replacing. And that is the name that will be called if you choose to participate in debate. And so you will need to know that you'll be called by that other name, and then introduce yourself by your proper name, please. So that's a fun thing we'll get to work through, but thank you for your patience with that. Again, and then another thing, the list that was sent for us to assign devices to people included everybody. So you may have a device and you are a non-voting member, which was a mistake, and we apologize for that. We try not to make those, but they happen. If you have a device assigned to you and you are a non-voting member, if you would please hold your device up in the air right now, the pages will come and collect those. Thank you so much for your patience and your honesty in turning those in. We really appreciate it. Okay, now the fun thing is that we have more fun, lots of fun, right? These devices will allow us to vote in the room, and our friends who are joining us online will be logged into the same system on their computer and will be able to vote from their computer. Those will all come together in one huge pool of data that we can use to count the vote all collectively. That also works for debate. So these devices really, truly will allow us to have a hybrid convention. We're really thankful for that. Okay, and so now, if you please, if you're attending virtually and you have not already, please log in now to the vVoter system. And if you are in the room and your device is not on, the power button is in the bottom on the right, and please just push that once and it will turn on, and then we are all ready to go. And the first thing we are going to do is have a practice vote. I would also like to draw all of your attention to a lovely piece of paper that is on your table. There should be 2 of these on your table. One side gives you instructions about how to vote, and the other side gives you instructions about how to participate in debate. Right now, we will be working on the how to vote side, so please, if you need a cheat sheet, that will help you do that. So how we're going to do this, we're going to have 2 practice votes, and this first time, we're going to give everyone a little more time to figure it out, just to make sure everything is all square. And so our first vote, if we can put that up on the screen, our first vote is a very, very pertinent question for all people at all times. Is a hot dog a sandwich? So we'd like you to register your vote using the buttons 1 or 2 for yes or no. And we'll have 45 seconds for this. We'll have 2 practice votes. Okay, thank you. She said that. The devices, they have their devices in the chair. So we just hit 45 seconds.
All right, we're going to close the vote. Now, before we go forward, well, that's all real good, but next time, since we're practicing, I'll call for you to post the vote, if you would. That would help. Let's just make sure, did everybody have their device? It seemed to work pretty well. You will note that it said received, or it did on mine, pretty quickly, so you'll know that you've done it. All right. Jamie?
Thank you very much. That went well. We are about to work on our second practice vote, and let me, no, I just, Brian, do we need to wait? All right, so we can go ahead and open the voting for our second practice vote, and I think we're going to put that up on the screen. This one is to give us a sense of who we have here at our convention, so if you could please indicate whether you are a delegate or a clergy participant in this convention. Would you like to open the vote?
Polls are open.
Or 45, if 30 seems good.
All right, polls are closed. All right, let me ask, can we not get these? These are immediately being displayed. Can we not have that or not?
They won't be immediately displayed later. This is just for the practice vote.
All right, I'm being told they will not be immediately displayed later. I hope that happens. The reason is I need to check here and make sure that people that are not here have also gotten a chance to vote. So I want this to be revealed when I ask for it to be, not the minute we're finished, please. How are we doing there? All right, so this is the vote, and it looks like everyone was included. Very good. Jamie?
Yes, and I see we have a question of what happens if you submit a vote before the bishop says the polls are open. That is okay. It will be recorded, but please do wait if you can, just to make sure, and that will, when the bishop says the polls are open, that's when we will start the timer for how long that will take. Thank you. We are ready to go.
All right. I think we're ready. Way to go, you all. You did a great job. Thank you, Jamie, too. Without objection, I would like to declare that Marta Steedman Sanborn is elected Secretary of Convention. Any objections? We see no objections. Therefore, Marta is elected, and I call on her for appointments.
I appoint Matt Koski, Assistant Secretary, serving the current convention.
And now, I, without objection, I appoint the Honorable Judith Andrews as Chancellor of the Diocese. I sure hope there are no objections, because I don't see any. Hearing and seeing none, Judy is appointed. Without objection, I appoint the Honorable Brian Krislock, Vice Chancellor of the Diocese. Hearing none, seeing none, Brian is appointed. And I also appoint him as parliamentarian for this convention with so much gladness. Thank you. And I call on the Chancellor for additional appointments.
I appoint as Assistant Chancellor Rosemary Lemoyne.
Okay, that requires no action. And now I call on Secretary Marta Steedman Sanborn for a report on congregational status.
Pursuant to Canon 2, Section 4B, the Office of the Bishop submitted its report on congregations in good standing as of 45 days before the convention. Good standing means a congregation is in compliance with all diocesan reporting requirements. That means your audit, NDI, which is net disposable income, parochial report, as well as current on payment of assessment with no outstanding prior year's unpaid assessments. Congregations working with the Office of the Bishop and the Budget and Finance Committee of the Diocesan Council to meet reporting requirements and which have an approved plan to deal with any unpaid prior year's assessment amounts are deemed to be in provisional good standing. Congregations in provisional good standing have seat, voice, and vote at this convention. Congregations which are not in compliance at the 45-day deadline become congregations not in good standing. Delegates from congregations not in good standing have seat and voice at this convention, but are not allowed to vote. All congregations for 2022 are either in good standing or provisional good standing.
All right, let's give yourselves a round of applause. I commend you all. One of our congregations, St. Luke's Alma, has voted to close, and I have affirmed their decision. The closing process takes a bit, and canonical action will be reported to the 2023 convention. But this year, we want to recognize this congregation and its ministry through the years. And I'd like to recognize the Honorable Stephen Brown, one of the remaining members of the congregation, to share briefly with all of us on this decision. Stephen?
Thank you, Bishop. And as Senior Warden of St. Luke's Alma, I do want to thank the diocese for and the convention for the opportunity to share a few words with you this morning. We have a 6-person congregation, technically, so that's where we are. And we did vote through, all 6 of us did vote to close the congregation or close the church. And we did so with the idea that we're going to do that in an orderly fashion and not just walk away. So I'd like to share these words with you. The earliest recorded Anglican service in Elma was conducted in a family home in 1885. Organized Anglicanism came to Elma about 10 years later with 17 confirmations and over 21 baptisms recorded. In January 1910, about 59 Anglicans were mustered and organized into a new mission congregation by the Reverend Dr. John King. The first Eucharist was celebrated on January 30th, 1910. Our church building was constructed later that year and consecrated in October of 1911. I came to St. Luke's in 1955. I think that's when I was born. As the only child of my mom and dad, Liz and Ed Brown. My mom is a former diocesan council member, among other things, church organist forever and a day. And my dad ended up being ordained as a total common ministry priest out of our church. Some of the vicars of our mission over my lifetime were Rex Sims, C.C. Carmen, Ernest Radcliffe, Edward Winkley, Bob Christie, Walt Knowles, John Metzler, and Skip Reeves. In 1993, our congregation became the total ministry congregation that it is today, with the ordination of George William or Bill Muchler as our local priest. Our congregation later raised up additional local priests, including Ed Brown, Margaret Kaus, Joan Neiman, and Steve Brill. Around 1990, Deacon John Nemus and his wife Libby moved from Bellevue to the Elma area. Deacon John is a peacemaker, and with his leadership and the generous donations from the ECA and churches in our diocese, he helped found the Grace Harbor and Pacific County Mediation Center. Deacon John served as its first executive director. St. Luke's, along with many of you, your congregations and yourselves, have supported this ministry faithfully throughout the years since its founding. As a longtime Mediation Center board member, I wish to thank you sincerely for your support over the years. The Mediation Center continues to thrive under its third executive director, providing peacemaking services that are much needed in our community. Reverend Margaret Kaus and Deacon Joan Neiman led our church to start a free monthly community dinner. We did that on the fourth Sunday of each month. The dinner became an ecumenical one with other churches in our community participating. We served anywhere from 50 to 100 people each month for over 15 years. I think there's some photographs there. We reached the end there. You see that leaf in the middle there? Anybody remember that? Like in the very first page of the older Book of Common Prayer. So that's one of the first memories that I have in church, is saying as loudly as I could, sitting next to my dad, "Eve," as he pointed at that leaf in the middle. So it's always meant a lot to me. I'm sure everybody else in the church appreciated it as well. So anyway, other photos, you saw Reverend Margaret and Deacon Joan. You saw me at Cathedral Day once upon a time and as an acolyte. So those were all included, along with some pictures of our community dinner. So as the last senior warden of St. Luke's Alma, I'd like to think that someone who was there at the beginning in 1910 may have been a part of the congregation when I first came on the scene in 1955. And I know that those who have come after will continue in the sharing of God's love. So peace, love, and health to you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. Yes, let's stand. If you've been to St. Luke's Alma, you know it's a beautiful, beautiful building. And they have been maybe only 6 people, but they're a mighty 6. And they took very good, loving care of that facility and of their ministries. And we give thanks for their ministries. And we thank you, Stephen, for being here today to share it. Thank you again. I commend to you document A.6, which lists clergy and staff transitions since our last convention. And I want to recognize a few of our new diocesan staff. First, Carla Robinson, who you got to meet and you all know, but Canon for Multicultural Ministries and Community Transformation, right down there to my right. Mirabella Maeve Wyatt, who's the Dean of the Iona School and Diocesan Transition Case Manager. I don't know, is she here? All right. And then Gabe Arrington, who's our communications intern. He's down there at the very end of that table. I need to make 2 additional appointments. First, to the Personnel Commission, the Reverend Mike Mayer, Christ Church, Puyallup, and Carla Kuhn, St. Andrew, Seattle. And I invite to the podium a special guest, Diane Wells, who retired as our diocesan archivist this past spring after 28 years on the diocesan staff. She asked if she could come back and be at this convention. She just can't get enough. And so she's back, and I was so glad that she has. She's moved to Auburn, Indiana, but I invited her back and have given her a few moments to speak to the convention and to introduce our new archivist.
Good morning, everyone. I'm so happy to be with you today. To quote Carson the butler on Downton Abbey, "The business of life is the acquisition of memories." As usual, Carson got it right. However, there's another side to this statement. For while the business of life may be the acquisition of memories, the business of archives is to protect and preserve those memories, to protect and preserve the stories of our individual lives and of our shared communities. The archives preserves the record of our efforts and bears witness to our acts when we no longer can. When the Diocesan Archives was officially established in 1976, Bishop Cochran wrote, "We are the people of remembrance. We are the people with a story. Archives keep and tell our stories. We have been the people who have never allowed ourselves to forget those events of our history in which God has acted to reveal himself to us and make known his loving purpose for us. Archives increase our sense of identity and help us understand who we are and how we came to be. For the last 28 years, I've had the privilege of being your diocesan archivist and records manager. During that time, I've done the day-to-day work of managing the Archives and Records program, arranging, describing, preserving, and protecting archival materials, answering reference and research questions, making materials accessible, and consulting with congregations, all the while doing my best to emphasize the importance to all of us of keeping archives. I retired in April of this year. For me, retiring was a difficult decision, as I knew that I'd missed the job that has given me so much pleasure and satisfaction for so many years, and that I'd miss all of you, my friends and colleagues. But in the end, I believe it was the right decision. The decision was also made easier by the fact that I have such an able and accomplished successor, Mr. Eric Bauer, who appeared on the scene at just the right moment, allowing me to feel that I was leaving the archives in good and capable hands. When I was hired, my predecessor, Peggy Hansen, said, "Oh, by the way, now you have to be elected." I was somewhat taken aback by this, as I'm sure Eric was when he found out about it. But over the years, I came to appreciate the fact that at least once a year, the archives was in the spotlight. I've often remarked that there were only two salaried people on diocesan staff who were elected, the bishop and me. However, the bishop only had to be elected once, whereas I had to be elected every year. And thanks to all of you, I was. So in conclusion, I'd like to thank Bishop Rickel, our diocesan staff, both past and present, and all of you and your congregations for your confidence in me and your support throughout the years, and for allowing me to pursue this important work that I love and feel so passionate about. And now I'd like to introduce my successor, whom some of you have already met, and I hope will vote for, your archivist and records manager, Mr. Eric Bauer. Please welcome him and show him the same support that you've always shown me. Thank you. Eric?
Thank you, Diane, for those wonderful words and an incredible introduction. I stand here very honored and privileged to follow in such great footsteps that Diane has put forth. As she had said, when she hired me last year, there's no way I could have anticipated the journey that I would be put on and eventually becoming her successor. It is truly very humbling to be in this position, and as Diane has said, the rich history of preserving our records and knowing what has happened in the past to better understand our future is something that's very important and vital. At the same time, This year marks 10 years that I have been an archivist, and I'm more excited now than I have at any other point in my career. And the main reason for that is because of the incredible work this diocese does, not only through its outreach, but also with what all of you do in your individual congregations and churches. The work that all of you do, and anything that I can do in terms of preserving your records or helping and assisting in any way that I can, just like Diane, my door is always open, and I'm there to answer any questions that you might have and provide the resources that you might need. And with that said, I wish to thank you very much.
So I had to get Diane to not walk off the stage because she doesn't know about this part. I want to tell you a story I've told many of you in this room, that when I came here as bishop, I went through the list of staff. And one of the things I was thinking is, why do we need an archivist? And then I met Diane. And she spent the last 15 years convincing me we need an archivist. And she does it so well. I cannot tell you how much I've depended on her. Thank God for elections only once for me. But we would have elected her over and over again. So today I would like to honor her on behalf of all of you, the way she's served here, by awarding her this day our first Bishop's Cross Award. Diane Wells faithfully served as the diocesan archivist and records manager for 28 years, starting in 1994. During her tenure, Diane's extensive skills and expertise ensured that the archives flourished and furthered the overall diocesan vision that acts out God's inclusive love, peace, and justice, uniquely living out this call within our specific local communities. Bishop Vincent Warner once wrote that Diane's leadership style empowers others to do their best. This is evident in the way she guided parishes and missions throughout the diocese to improve the storage and retention of their records. She built strong relationships with both clergy and congregants and took a proactive role through her workshops on the hows and whys of record preservation. During the COVID-19 pandemic, a time of uncertainty and change, Diane worked tirelessly to ensure that staff could access the materials they needed from home, and she started digitizing materials such as the diocesan collection of architectural drawings. In addition to her work for the diocese, Diane has represented the diocese within the broader archival profession. She served as chair, secretary, and member at large of the Archivist of Religious Collections section, which is a subgroup of the Society of American Archivists. Diane has also served on the board of directors for the National Episcopal Historians and Archivists, and was member of the Seattle Area Archivist, among other organizations. She has also helped foster the next generation of librarians and archivists by hosting volunteers and interns from the University of Washington and library schools around the country, giving them hands-on experience and teaching them how to put classroom theories to practice. I was going to say, and I'll add here, that rarely I've had a person say I'm going to retire and then also introduce me to their replacement, but that's what Diane did. And she was right on. Eric is exactly the person to do that. Beyond her service to the diocese, Diane also gave her time, resources, and talents to the world, opening her home to students from local universities, as well as hosting refugees from around the world. As of this past April, Diane retired as diocesan archivist and records manager, but she leaves a legacy within the diocese and congregations of ensuring that the rich history of this diocese continues to live into the future. And I would say that and add this too, that she is one of the most giving people. And for those of you that give me great accolades when I send out a bio about somebody who's died, that all comes from Diane. All right? I mean, I may add a few things, but she is the one that puts those together. And does it so well and honors people so well when she does that. She does it with a great care and love. It is my great honor to award Diana Wells the Bishop's Cross this year. Okay, I'm going to make a few appointments to our governing bodies. All of these are 3-year terms unless noted. To the Board of Directors, the Reverend David Marshall, St. Dunstan's Shoreline. Yes, okay, you can go ahead. To the Diocesan Council, the Reverend Jesus Reyes, St. Luke's, Vancouver. The Reverend Malcolm McLaurin, Holy Cross, Redmond. And without objection, I appoint the following members to 3-year terms on the Disciplinary Board. This is a board we hope never meets, but we do have to have people on there. The Reverend Marilyn Cornwell, retired. John Herster, St. Mark's Cathedral, Seattle, and the Reverend Jedediah Fox, Redeemer, Kenmore. If you have an objection, please speak up or type your information into chat. Seeing none, the disciplinary board appointments are accepted. And without objection, I appoint the following as our church attorneys: Marvin L. Gray, Jr., Ascension, Seattle, and Douglas Oles, Epiphany, Seattle. If you object, please speak up or type your name and information into chat. Seeing none, the church attorneys are appointed. And now, yes. I'd like to recognize our candidates for ordination. Shane Carlson, St. Anthony, Silverdale. Charles Huff, St. Hugh of Lincoln, and if they're here, if you'll stand, that would be good. Elizabeth Walker, Epiphany, Seattle, and Jana Whitworth, St. Anne's, Washougal. I don't know, I think Chuck is here. I've seen him around, but let's congratulate them and welcome them. And now I'd like to ask the convention to be in a moment of silence for the clergy deceased since our last convention. Burden Brent Brentnall, Steve Brill, Philip Ayers, Gerald Porter, Richard Buer, Pete Strymer. May they rest in peace and rise in glory. And now I recognize the Secretary for a report on proposed changes to the Episcopal Church Constitution approved on first reading at General Convention in July, which changes are required to be made known at the diocesan level. Marta?
As I begin this report, I want you to know that the report is long, so bear with me. I also want you to know that I've edited out 4 pages from this report in an act of mercy. Resolved that the 80th General Convention amend Article 5, Section 4 of the Constitution to read as follows. Section 4, whenever a new diocese is formed and erected out of an existing diocese or out of 2 or more existing dioceses or parts of them, the formation process of the newly formed diocese, including the adoption of its constitution and canons, shall be set forth in the canons. Canon 1.10. Be it further resolved that it be amended to read as follows and voted on at the 81st General Convention. Section 1. Whenever a new diocese is proposed to be formed within the limits of any diocese or by the junction or parts of two or more dioceses, the ecclesiastical authorities and the standing committees of the diocese involved in the proposed new diocese shall submit approval to the conventions of each diocese involved, a joint agreement of union, setting forth their agreements, including the manner of determining the bishop diocesan and other bishops, if any, the provisions of the constitution and canons of the new diocese, and such other matters as may be necessary or proper. Upon approval by the conventions of each of the involved dioceses, the joint agreement of union shall be submitted by ratification by the General Convention no less than 90 days prior to the first legislative day of the next meeting of the General Convention. Section 2. Promptly after ratification by the General Convention, the ecclesiastical authority of the new diocese, as set forth in the joint agreement of union, they'll call their first convention of the new diocese, enabling it to organize, fix the time and place, the place being within the territorial limits of the new diocese. Section 3. Whenever one diocese is about to be divided into two dioceses, the convention of such diocese shall declare which portion or portions are to be in the new diocese and shall make the same known to General Convention before the ratification. Section 4. Whenever a new diocese shall have organized its first convention in accordance with the provisions of the Constitution and canons, and that is made known, and in the manner prescribed in those sections, they have chosen a name in accordance with the Constitution of the General Convention, according to Article 5, Section 1, and they've laid it before Executive Council, and they have certified copies of the Constitution at its first convention. Then the proceedings preparatory to the formation of the new diocese, then they can be admitted to the union of the General Convention. Section 5. Are you having fun? In the event of the erection of an area mission into a diocese of this church as provided in Article 5, Section 1 of the Constitution, the convocation in the area of the mission shall be entitled to elect deputies to the succeeding General Convention and also to elect a bishop. The jurisdiction previously assigned to the bishop in the area mission shall be terminated upon the admission of the new diocese. Section 6. When a diocese and one or more other dioceses that were formed either by the division, by the erection into a diocese or a missionary diocese, become one reunited diocese, then the previous diocese is no longer in existence. Makes sense, doesn't it? Give me a minute as I skip sentences. Please, I don't know if you can hear the bishop because I think his mic is off. If the agreement, I wanted to give you the edited version. If the agreement of the diocese is made and the consents of their conventions are given more than 3 months before the next meeting of General Convention, the fact of the agreement and consents will be certified by the ecclesiastical authority and the Secretary of Convention. Section 7. When the union of two or more dioceses or portions of those dioceses or the reunion of two or more dioceses shall have been completed, the facts shall be certified to the presiding bishop and to the secretary of the House of Deputies. Thereupon the presiding bishop shall notify the secretary of the House of Bishops. That concludes the changes to A031 of the 80th General Convention. We move now. Thank you. Be grateful for the reduction of those 4 pages I did not read. Amen, the bishop said. A059, those changes were to amend Article 10 of the Constitution, and this is the first reading. Resolved that the 80th General Convention of the Episcopal Church appeal Article 10 in its entirety and to replace it with the following. Section 1. The Book of Common Prayer is understood to be those liturgical forms and other texts authorized by the General Convention in accordance with this article and the canons of the Church. The Book of Common Prayer in this church is intended to be communal and devotional prayer enriched by our church's cultural, geographical, and linguistic contexts. The Book of Common Prayer shall contain both public worship and private devotion. The Book of Common Prayer, as now established or hereafter amended by General Convention, shall be in use in all the dioceses of this church. Section 2. No alteration or addition shall be made unless the General Convention approve the same on first reading in one regular meeting of General Convention. By resolve so directing be sent to the Secretary of General Convention or to the Secretary of Convention of every diocese to be made known to the Diocesan Convention at its next regular meeting, that would be today, and to be adopted on second reading without alteration by the General Convention at its next succeeding regular meeting by a majority of all bishops, excluding retired bishops not present, or the whole number of bishops entitled to vote in the House of Bishops. Section 3. No alteration thereof or additional thereto shall be made unless it has previously been authorized for trial use. Section 4. The General Convention may, at any one meeting, by a majority of the whole number of the bishops that are entitled to vote, by a majority of the clerical and lay deputies of all dioceses entitled to representation, as set forth, to amend the table of lessons and tables of rubrics related to the Psalms. B, authorize for trial use any alterations or additions. C, authorize the use throughout the church as provided by canon, any alternative or additional liturgies. Section 5. Nothing in the article can be construed.
Okay, I'm going to intervene. Marta's doing exactly what she was asked to do, but I sit here wondering, you know, maybe we should all be wondering why the church is thriving as it is, why we take time on this kind of thing. So because I'm walking out the door anyway, I've turned to the chancellors and say I'm bringing it into this. Or maybe I am, because I'm going to ask you if anybody has an objection to us posting these publicly so you can read it all you want to tonight so you can go to sleep. If that suffices for you to have been notified of these fabulous changes from General Convention, without objection, we're going to move on. Are there objections? Blessedly, there are none. I'm offering a prayer now that we never have to go through this again. It will be my last gift to you, or one of them. The chancellors are already cooking up a way for us to never have to go through this again. Marta, thank you. Now, on a much happier note, I want to award the preaching award for this year. There were 3 fabulous finalists. It was one of the hardest years I've ever had. We're now using video and audio, but I felt clear about this when I selected them. The winner of the preaching award this year is the Reverend Elizabeth Riley of Emmanuel Mercer Island. Elizabeth, and here there is a certificate suitable for framing. But the real good news is there's a big old check in here, too. So, congratulations. We are ready now for our first presentation, but I wanted to say something to all the presenters over today, and I want you to look to the right because you're getting an object lesson in what I'm about to say, all right? He's already standing there. April Caballero is our floor coordinator, and it's her job to make sure presenters are up here and ready to go. Look at the dean. He's up here ready to go.
She told me to come.
Yeah, presenters have been asked to be up here in the chairs, off the stage to my right, and on the on-deck chair or in the bullpen or whatever you want to call it, 5 minutes in advance. And as you can see, Dean Thomason, he is ready to go. I also want you to know that presenters have been given a specific amount of time and are being timed by our chair of dispatch of business. We don't want to be rude, but we do need to move on. We're behind because of the last debacle we just went through. Presenters will hear a bell when they have 30 seconds left in their allotted time. Please welcome your Dean, Steve Thomason, for an update on St. Mark's Cathedral activities.
I was going to read the cathedral bylaws, but I think I'll dispense of that.
Thank you.
It's great to see all your faces. This feels like a homecoming after 3 years now of absence. I want to say just a bit about St. Mark's. Your cathedral is, by definition, a diocesan ministry. Its mission is to serve as a house of prayer for all people. It is a loving, welcoming, inclusive community that nurtures faith, encourages service, and integrates social and environmental justice into our lives. And it is a sacred gathering place for the diocese and for the broader community. It is a parish, of course, but there are so many things that are designed to function and be presented as diocesan in mind, and I want to spend just a couple of minutes on that today. Among these diocesan ministries that are housed at your cathedral include the choir school and choir camp. There's more than 50 children across the Seattle region, ages 5 through 18, who participate in this each year. The Seattle Service Corps, I hope you'll visit them at the booth. There's a couple of them working here, including Katie, who was the reader at the worship service this morning, and Gabe over here. The Wisdom School, I'll say more about that in a moment, but it is for deepening our spiritual lives through learning and practice, and more than 400 people across the diocese participate in some way. Diocesan workshops are hosted by St. Mark's, often and co-sponsored with the Office of the Bishop. Most recently, we had Dr. Mary Christ, the Indigenous missioner from the presiding bishop's office, offer a Saturday workshop exploring Indigenous ministry, and over 200 people registered for that. The live stream ministry connects all sorts of people across the world for worship and formation, and of course, the service of Compline. Just a few upcoming events of special note. On the eve of the election, we will host an interfaith election vigil on Monday, November 7th. It's open to all. Antiphons is our traditional way, 30 plus years running, to begin the observation of a Holy Advent. The pageant of the Nativity, December 20th. The New Year's Eve Labyrinth Walk and Eucharist on as the clock strikes midnight. Justice music is important and is key to our mission. I'm going to, for sake of time, just note that there are 7 different choirs, and they sing at 4 of the 6 services every Sunday. Justice is important to us. You heard a bit yesterday about how St. Mark's incubated Earth Ministry. We also have incubated the Northwest Community Bail Fund in recent years, the Interfaith Task Force on Homelessness. We host a bicultural school, the Amistad School. Sanctuary Network, we hosted a person in residence in Sanctuary on the Cathedral campus for 3 years. He's gained a reprieve in his court case and is now living and working in the community again. We're delighted for that. In the upper right hand, you'll see between the bishop and me, the Right Honorable Cecile Hansen, who is the tribal chair of the Duwamish tribe. We were delighted to have here at the cathedral this spring. In all, there are over 100 nonprofits that count St. Mark's as their gathering place. Music and community service groups, two featured here. The Totem Pole, the Lummi Totem Pole caravan began its journey from here to Canada a few years ago at St. Mark's. And on the left, Kadima Synagogue hosted their High Holy Days at St. Mark's just this month. The Wisdom School, I just want to highlight a few speakers upcoming. On November 12th, we have Hillary Raining, who's our theologian in residence for this year, offering a workshop on liturgy and intersectionality, appropriation or appreciation. In March, next spring, we'll have Brian McLaurin offering Do I Stay Christian? A couple of months later, Dr. Hillary McBride of the Liturgist podcast will reflect on the wisdom of your body, finding healing, wholeness, and connection through embodied living. And we're delighted to have in June of next year, Dr. Christina Cleveland, who will offer a workshop on Mothered by God, Divine Feminine, and the Black Madonna. And then in December 23, Dr. Will Gaffney will offer Womanist Theology and Biblical Interpretation. I'm going to ask the privilege for one more minute because we have a special event coming up that I want to identify, please. The cathedral is the seat of the bishop. That's what a cathedral means. The bishop has brought us through the pandemic with much grace. He has known to love sprinkling water on the people. I think at one point he even made a woman cry. No, that's not what happened with that woman on the right. She is part of the Stations of the Cross at the cathedral, a gift that Greg and Marty Rickle made to underwrite in memory of Greg's father. He has lit 15 new fires at the Easter Vigil, nearly lighting himself a couple of times. He's ordained some 50 people to the priesthood. He leads worship. He blesses bees. He blesses building constructions. He's gotten dunked a lot to raise money for the Cathedral Foundation of Olympia. But most of all, sir, you have been a great leader, a good friend, and a fine pastor to us all. And for that, we give thanks, and your cathedral will host a special choral evensong on Sunday, November 6th at 4:30. The bishop fittingly will officiate, and then we will have a reception to honor Greg and Marty, and all are welcome. November 6th at 4:30. And then just mark your calendars, Cathedral Day next year, God willing, and you consenting, we'll have a provisional bishop with us for confirmations and the food trucks on the ground and lots of fun. Wherever you are in your spiritual journey, you are welcome at your cathedral. Thank you.
Thank you, Dean Thomason. Thank you very much. And now I call on Chuck Hamilton to present an update on Episcopal relief and development.
I first started outlining this short speech sometime last year, not really knowing when our first post-COVID outbreak in-person convention would be. I was planning to open this talk with a little story about a cute, curly-headed 2-year-old boy taking a bath with some assistance from his father, both of them laughing and giggling as Dad foofed his son dry with the towel. I would have told you that this cute, curly-headed boy was, of course, me, and this bathtub scene is my oldest memory. In my planned speech, I would have gone on to say that I was lucky enough to be raised by a loving family, by 2 parents who cared for my health, my education, my well-being as a young child. Dad had a sizable vegetable garden out back, and he and Mom always made sure there was plenty of food on the table. I would have added that I kind of took this situation for granted, that I assumed I had an upbringing similar to all the other kids, and that it was years before I truly realized how important that early love and caring was to my overall development as a human, and that not all children had such childhood experience, particularly in developing countries, which I would have then connected to the 1,000 Days of Love campaign, a 3-year, $3 million fundraising effort started by Episcopal Relief and Development in 2019, further explaining that the funds from this campaign would go toward providing health care, nutritional guidance, caregiver training, and early childhood education for the youngest and most vulnerable in our world. And I would have reminded you that at convention in 2019, I suggested a $100,000 goal for our diocese to support this life-changing initiative. But I'm not going to do that speech today, because that would lead to an ask situation. It's a persuasive speech trying to get you to do something, specifically give money. And since the first time that I formulated this speech, new information has come to light. So I'm going to start this speech over again. Thank you. Thank you, first of all, for paying attention in 2019 when the 1,000 Days of Love campaign was presented at convention, for holding it in your hearts when so much was going on in our lives over the last couple of years, and for simply recognizing that funding early childhood development is so vitally important. Collectively, somehow, some way, you felt connected and committed to this effort. I know this because since 2019, even without a formal fundraising campaign in place, this diocese has contributed $115,000 to the 1,000 Days of Love campaign. We totally blew through our $100,000 goal, and more is still coming in. That's truly amazing. Y'all are awesome. Thank you. In addition to this generous contribution toward the 1,000 Days campaign, our diocese continues to support other priorities of Episcopal relief and development, such as creating economic stability and equality for women, and helping to end violence against women. Building resilience in the face of climate change by helping communities build proper sanitation and clean water systems, along with the training to maintain those systems. Helping communities prepare for natural disasters and assisting them when disasters do occur, both in the United States and across the developing world. The Diocese of Olympia is consistently in the top 5 to 10% of all dioceses in the Episcopal Church in donations to Episcopal relief and development. In fact, total giving for 2020 and 2021 by the Diocese of Olympia in the midst of a pandemic, mind you, was $1.3 million. This diocese has clearly embraced the concept of abundance over scarcity. One could say you are successfully tending the garden of abundance, apparently encountering Jesus there, and sharing the fruits of the harvest from that garden. Thank you for your consistent support and generosity over the years, working with Episcopal Relief and Development for lasting change. Thank you.
Thank you, Chuck. I just want to thank Chuck because he has dutifully been a servant for ERD, and all of that success he just shared has so much to do with him. So Chuck, thank you for your leadership over the years. It's now time for nominations. As each name is placed in nomination, the person's photo is going to appear on the screen, or that's what we're praying for. You may follow along with either document B.2, long version, or B3, which is a shorter version. Now, pay attention to this. This is how we're going to do it. When I ask if there are any further nominations from the floor, if you have a nomination for that position, please approach one of the 4 floor microphones. Or if you're attending virtually, be prepared to enter information in the chat. Please do not do this before I ask for further nominations for that position. When it's time, I ask that you first tell us, get this list down, the position to which you are nominating, your name, congregation, name and congregation city, and then the information of the nominee, including their name, congregation name, and city. The person seconding the nomination should also be prepared to give us their name, congregation name, and congregation city, referencing the person being nominated. Once this information is complete, the nominee is asked to accept the nomination at a microphone and be prepared to certify that they are eligible to stand for election. For single candidate offices, I'm going to call for election by unanimous consent. If you object to any of the single candidate elections by acclamation, you will have the opportunity to vote on them. Once all the nominations are complete, we will vote on those with multiple candidates or with objections. I recognize the Reverend Nick Mather to introduce the nominees.
For the Commission on Ministry, Clergy Deacon Order, the nominees are Keith Dorwick, St. Andrews, Port Angeles; Emily Austin, St. Mark's Cathedral, Seattle.
Thank you. Are there any further nominations from the floor? We see none, so I declare the nominations closed. Nick?
For the Diocesan Council, Evergreen Regional Ministry, the nominee is Josh Hostler, Church of the Good Shepherd, Federal Way.
Thank you. Are there any further nominations from the floor? I see none, so I'm going to declare Josh Hostler elected to this office. Nick?
For the Diocesan Council, Holy See Regional Ministry, the nominees are Allison Leary Estep, St. John the Baptist, West Seattle; Emily Meeks, St. Mark's Cathedral, Seattle.
Thank you. Are there any further nominations from the floor? Seeing none, I declare the nominations closed. Nick?
For the Diocesan Council, Mount Baker Regional Ministry, the nominee is Badalena Paz, Resurrección, Mount Vernon.
Are there any further nominations from the floor? Seeing and hearing none, I declare Badalena Paz elected. Nick?
For the Diocesan Council, Rainier Regional Ministry, the nominee is Maitland McKenzie, St. Mary's, Lakewood.
Are there any further nominations from the floor? Seeing and hearing none, I declare Maitland McKenzie elected. Nick?
For the Diocesan Council Lay at Large position, the nominees are Stuart Case, St. Barnabas, Bainbridge Island; Karen Shostrom, St. John's, Kirkland; Mandy Whitaker, St. Aidan, Camino Island.
Thank you. Are there any further nominations from the floor? Hearing and seeing none, I declare the nominations closed. Nick?
For the Standing Committee Lay Order, the nominees are Skylar Carroll, St. David of Wales, Shelton; Carol Loudenbach, Church of the Good Shepherd, Federal Way; Christina Tina A. Pulf, St. Dunstan's, Shoreline.
Thank you. Are there any further nominations from the floor? Seeing and hearing none, I declare the nominations closed. Nick?
For the Standing Committee Clerical Order, the nominees are Jed Fox, Church of the Redeemer, Kenmore; Elise Johnston, St. John the Baptist, West Seattle.
Thank you. Are there any further nominations from the floor? All right, seeing and hearing none, I declare the nominations closed. Nick?
For the office of Archivist and Records Manager, the nominee is Eric Bauer.
Are there any further nominations from the floor? Yes, it would be crazy for that to happen, I think. Seeing and hearing none, I declare that Eric Bauer is elected our archivist. And let's welcome him on to... Just the first, Eric, of many elections you're going to have to go through. For the office of Treasurer, go ahead, Nick.
Yes, for the office of Treasurer, the nominee is James Beckwith, St. Paul's, Bellingham.
It almost seems silly to ask this, but are there any further nominations from the floor? You really don't want this one. Seeing and hearing none, I declare with great delight that Jim Beckwith is elected, and let's thank him for his amazing work he does right here. So, Nick, I think we're ready. Is that correct? Yep. All right. We're now ready for nominations for our deputation to the 2024 General Convention deputation. Believe it or not, General Convention's only 2 years away now. These nominations will be from the floor, and each candidate has identified 2 convention members to nominate them. I invite those making nominations who are present to head to a microphone right now, making sure that you are together with your partner, i.e., the person nominating and seconding a specific person should be standing together at the same microphone. I'll call on microphones, and then if there are nominations from virtual attendees, I'm going to ask for those as well. If you're attending virtually, be prepared to make or second a nomination in the chat. For this, there are no pro or con microphones, so just pick one. As each name is placed in nomination, that person's photo will appear on the screen. Once we finish with the nominations of which we are aware, I will ask if there are any further nominations, either here or from virtual attendees. Remember, if you're making a nomination of a person who did not complete the nomination form, they must have agreed to be nominated and be able to certify that they are eligible to stand for election. We will begin with the clergy order. If you're nominating a person for the lay order, please do not line up yet at the microphone, as that will slow down this process. We will get to laity in just a minute, so we'll start with clergy.
Nomination for clergy deputy to General Convention. I'm the Reverend Edie Weller from St. Mark's Cathedral in Seattle, and I nominate the Reverend Canon Britt Olson from St. Luke's in Ballard, Seattle.
I'm Barbara Wilson from St. Luke's, Seattle. I second the nomination for Canon Britt Olson.
Okay, very good. Let's stay at that mic. We'll just go around, okay? So mic 4.
Lane Batista, St. John the Baptist, West Seattle. I would like to nominate the Reverend Canon Elise Johnstone as clergy deputy to General Convention.
Marcus Alfonso, St. John the Baptist, West Seattle. I second the nomination for Elise Johnstone.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Let's continue on mic 4.
My name is Mary Lyons from St. Stephen's, Longview. I nominate Nick Mather for Deputy for General Convention from the Diocese of St. Stephen's, Longview.
My name is Sherilyn King, and I second the nomination. I'm also from St. Stephen's, Longview, and I'm seconding the nomination for the Reverend Nick Mather.
Great, thank you. Let's go to microphone 3 right here.
I'm Roberta Newell, and
Wait a minute. Microphone 3. Is it on? Yeah, there you go.
Hi, I'm Roberta Newell from St. Mary's in Lakewood, and I step to nominate Ruth Ann Garcia from St. James.
I'm Val Brewstad from St. James, Kent, and I second that nomination.
Thank you. Let's keep going on that microphone, whoever's next.
Sabeth Fitzgibbons, Trinity, Seattle. I nominate Keith Dorwick from St. Andrews, Port Angeles.
I'm Gretchen Van Blair from St. Andrews, Port Angeles, and I second the nomination of Keith Dorwick.
All right, thank you. Next. All right, I'm going to move on because, all right, let's go to 2.
One more.
Well, I'll come back to you. Be ready. Number 2.
Test. Okay, there we go. I'm Reverend Darren from St. John's Episcopal Church in Olympia, and I nominate the Reverend Tabor Hamilton as deputy to the 81st General Convention.
Thank you.
I'm Pat Grote from St. Dunstan Shoreline, and I second Rachel Tabor Hamilton.
Thank you.
I'm Chris Johns from St. Dunstan Shoreline. I'd like to nominate Father David Marshall as deputy to the convention from St. Dunstan's Church.
All right, thanks.
I'm Pat Grote, St. Dunstan Shoreline, and I second.
All right. Let's go to 1, and we'll come back to 3. Don't worry. 1.
I'm Joseph Peters Matthews at St. Hilda St. Patrick Edmonds. I nominate the Reverend Sabeth Fitzgibbons to the clerical order for Deputy to General Convention. She's at Trinity, Seattle.
Mm-hmm.
Reverend Danae Ashley from St. Andrews, Seattle, and I second the nomination of Sabeth Fitzgibbons.
Thanks.
I'm Robert Chapman from Church of the Redeemer in Kenmore. I rise to nominate the Reverend Jedediah Fox, rector of Church of the Redeemer in Kenmore, to be a delegate to General Convention for Clergy.
Okay.
My name is excuse me, Andy Bates, Church of the Redeemer, Kenmore, and I second the nomination of Jed Fox.
Thank you.
My name is Brett Boaton-Mead, Holy Cross Redmond, and I nominate Malcolm McLaurin as a delegate to the convention.
Okay.
Tsuneko Nakatani from Church of the Holy Cross in Redmond. I'm second for nomination of the Malcolm McLaurin.
Okay, thank you.
Danae Ashley from St. Andrews, Seattle, and I nominate Edmund Harris from St. Peter's, Seattle, for the clerical deputation.
I'm Polly Shigaki from St. Peter's, Seattle, and I would second the nomination of Edmund Harris.
Okay, thank you. Now back to 3. No? Well, they just went away, I guess. They didn't want to be there. Okay. Oh, all right. No need to nominate twice. This isn't Chicago, is it? Okay. All right. Now we'll go to Zoom for nominations that come from there. Very good. Kendall?
I'm Kendall Haynes, rector of St. Matthew, Browns Point, Tacoma, and I nominate Lillian Springer from St. Matthew, San Mateo, Auburn, as deputy to the 81st General Convention lay order.
Okay. I think we should have asked for nominations from the floor for clergy order before we did that. So, Kendall, hang on a second. That's not your fault, it's mine. Are there any other nominations for clergy order from the floor? Or on Zoom? We're seeing and hearing.
I guess I don't have to do it again because you said seconds once a second.
Okay, that's interesting. I declare the nominations are closed for the clergy order for deputy election. So now, can we let Kendall's nomination stand even though? All right, good. We'll go to the second to Kendall's nomination if we can on Zoom. I think Nancy's making that, if I can tell here. There we go.
I just wanted to nominate Keith Dorick, but he's already been seconded, so I'm happy to second Kendall's nomination.
Okay. Thank you. Next person to be nominated via Zoom. Is there anyone else? There may not be. We're making sure. Okay, are there any nominations from the floor for lay deputies? Okay, now we're going to go to the nominations for lay deputies on the floor. So please come to a mic now if you're nominating. You saw this happen. We're going to do the same routine here. So we'll start at microphone 4.
Okay. Canon Jennifer Doherty from St. Mark's Cathedral in Seattle. I nominate Judy Andrews, also from St. Mark's Cathedral in Seattle.
Kathy Minch from St. Mark's Cathedral, Seattle, and I second the nomination for Judy Andrews.
All right, thank you. We'll keep going on 4.
Hisako Beasley from St. Mark's Cathedral. I nominate Michael Seawer, also St. Mark's, for Deputy to General Convention.
All right, thank you.
Eliasin Rosario Cruz from St. Mark's Cathedral, and I second that nomination.
Thank you. All right, we'll go to 3. Microphone 3. Man, there's something wrong with 3. Let's go to 2.
The Reverend Josh Hostler from Good Shepherd Federal Way. I nominate Elisa Johnson as lay deputy to General Convention.
All right, thank you.
Darren Anderson, also from Good Shepherd. I second that nomination.
Thank you.
Dawn Campbell Foisey, St. Philip's, Marysville. I nominate April Thompson as lay deputy to General Convention, Christchurch Blaine.
Thank you.
Courtney Jones, unaffiliated. I second the nomination of April Thompson.
Thank you.
I'm Pam Tinsley, Epiphany Parish, Seattle, and I nominate Taryn Sweeney Bender, also of Epiphany, for lay deputy to General Convention.
Thank you.
R.C. Laird, St. John's Olympia. I second the nomination.
Mike Allard, St. Thomas Medina. I'd like to nominate Sonny Bannon of St. Thomas Medina for lay deputy convention.
Thank you.
Jackie Livingston, St. Thomas Medina. I second Sonny Bannon's nomination.
All right, thank you. Back to 3.
Christy Chapman, St. David's Friday Harbor. I would like to nominate Sherilyn King to the lay deputation from St. Stephen's, Longview.
I'm Stuart Case, St. Barnabas, Bainbridge Island. I second the nomination of Sherilyn King.
Debbie Baxter from St. John's, Kirkland. I'd like to nominate Karen Shorstrom of St. John's, Kirkland for delegate for General Convention.
Karen Rubel from St. John's, Kirkland, and I second the nomination of Karen Shostrom.
Okay, thank you. Any further nominations for lay order? I asked for this once, but I'll do it one more time. I'm seeing none, so I declare these nominations closed. So Nick, I think we've done our work, right? I think so. Let's thank Nick Mather and his committee, and they'll be back up here in a little bit. And so now we're ready for our first round of votes. If you're in person, you will take out your V-Voter keypad that we practiced on. If you're attending virtually, make sure your V-Voter is open on your device, wherever you are. We are going to do these one at a time, each position in a separate vote. We will only be voting for those positions with multiple candidates or those that received an objection, which we did not have, so we will not be doing that. I will open each vote for 30 seconds. I know we used 45 for the practice votes, but you did so well, we're going to try 30 for these votes. Votes are being watched by our parliamentarians, so if there are issues, we will extend the time. You will hear verbal time cues. Results will not appear on the screen, I hope. When I close the vote, results will be certified and shared later prior to the next round of voting. So our first vote will be for Diocesan Council, Holy See. You will vote for 1. Let's get that up here first before I open the polls. All right, there it is, ballot 1, Holy See Regional Ministry. Vote for 1. I declare the polls are open. Okay, we gave you a little longer. You need to be quicker if we want to make 30 seconds work. I'm going to close the polls now. So we will move now to the next vote, which is Diocesan Council lay at large position. Again, you're going to vote for one. Let's get that up and then I'll open the polls. All right, here is what you're voting on. You have 3 people. Again, vote for one. I declare the polls open. We told them we'd give them verbal cues, so are we going to do that? Like 10 seconds left.
10 seconds left.
10 seconds. All right, polls are closed. The next vote is for standing committee lay order. You'll vote for one. Let's get that up there and then we'll start that. So here you have it. The polls are open.
Ten seconds remaining.
Polls are closed. We'll move now to Standing Committee Clerical Order. There are 2 positions open for clergy members on the Standing Committee. Election requires a majority in each order, voting separately, so we will elect to the 4-year term first. Once that person is declared elected, the second person may be elected by unanimous consent to the second position. You will vote for one this time. For one, we need the clerical order up. Once I close the polls, you can put the next one up if you would, so we can speed this up a little bit. Who has the slides? All right. Okay, vote for one. The polls are open. Ten seconds. All right, y'all tell me that. Okay, polls are closed. So we're going to vote for next deputy positions in each order. Okay. But I've been told we need time for them to fix the slides, so. Now I'm going to tell you that you can do this. Do not leave. Stay right by your chair. Keep your hand on your chair. But if you want to stand up, you can stand up and kind of stretch a little bit, but don't leave. Lock all the doors. Dee Dee, whenever you all get the clerical order, we could go on with that if it's possible. All right, let's see which one comes up. That will be what we're voting on. So this is clerical order. So before you start, let me tell you what you're doing here. We're going to start with the clerical order. I want you to take a minute just to look at the list and perhaps write down the 4 candidates you want to vote for. So write those down somewhere. And you're going to vote by number, okay? So you see the numbers beside their name. That's why we're giving you some time, because you're going to vote as these numbers show, 101, 102, 103. That's adjacent to the name. That's how you're going to do it. Dee Dee?
Thank you. I just want to let you know that there was an error, our fault, something that copied in from the last General Convention. Number 111, Kevin Pearson, is not a candidate this year. He was a candidate in the last election and did, so do not vote for 111 Kevin Pearson. Don't put him on your list.
I see Kevin right here, and he's breathing a sigh of relief already. So do not vote for 111, okay? You'll waste a vote today anyway. So copy down the 4 you think you want to vote for. Make sure you got the numbers right. You're going to vote for 4. By those numbers, the polls are now open. What's that? All right, wait a minute. Stop. I'm just learning this today too, so we got to do this one at a time. Somebody explain it, since I don't have any explanation here, I don't think.
So
okay.
We'll be voting 4 times.
All right.
And you'll submit 1 vote each time.
How do they submit? Is it send?
Yes. You'll type the 3 numbers associated with the person you wish to nominate first, and then press the send button.
All right. So we're going to do that one at a time.
We'll open the polls. You'll vote for the first person on your list of 4, and you can vote in any order. And then we'll close the polls. Then we will open the polls again, and you will vote for the second person on your list.
All right.
Is that clear?
We're starting over. Can we start over?
Point of order. Nigel Tabor Hamilton at St. John's in Snohomish. I started doing what you said, and so I've sent all 4 numbers. Is that okay?
We're going to clear the queue, and we're going to start over.
Thank you.
When the queue is cleared, let me know, and we will start.
And when the polls are open, during that first 30 seconds, during each 30-second period, the last number that you send is the one that is recorded.
In other words, you could change it, is what she's saying, in that 30 seconds. I wouldn't attempt it if I were you, but you can. All right. All right, so we're going to vote for 4, one at a time. All right, so you're going to make your first selection and press send. We're going to give you 30 seconds to do that. Then we'll go to the second selection. We'll do the same. We'll do the third and the fourth, okay? So this is the first selection. The polls are open. 10 seconds. Polls are closed. All right, we're going to move to your second selection. And we will start that now. Polls are open. Ten seconds. Okay, we're looking at that. Hang on. Polls are closed. Let's see what the issue is here first. Val, are you having a problem? I don't think we are. All right, we've taken care of Val's issue. Good. What about back there? 45. Wait a minute, RC, I'll get to you.
Okay.
Just hang on a second. All right, RC, go ahead.
I just had a point of RC Laird, St. John's Olympia. I'm wondering if the voting secretary can tell us what the difference between added to queue and received is on our machines, because I for one, and I think I heard other people talking about it, have gotten a different response from our voter in the second vote, and I'm confused. I'm not smart enough to vote. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so I'm not seeing it, but I hear what you're saying. People are seeing added to the queue. And what else are people seeing? I saw sending, but then it does something after that. Yeah, received is what you want to get, but it sounds like some people are only getting add to the queue, and they don't get received. Who's going to tell us whether their votes are going in or not? It's not me, I can tell you that. Yes, number 4?
Michelle, St. Paul's, Bellingham. When I push the number in and hit send, mine does nothing. I don't get received or anything. So.
All right. Yeah, go ahead. 3.
So to clarify for those who got added to queue, that usually means that you did not hit all 3 numbers before hitting send. So it might mean that you tried to hit them and it just didn't register, so make sure that you see your whole 3-digit number, and then the send is in the upper right. I know some people are confused because they think it should be in the lower right, but it says send, it's got a little envelope on it, so all 3 digits and hit send, and then you should see the word received, and then whatever the last number you put in is the one it'll count. You won't accidentally vote twice, I promise.
Okay. All right, I'm going to declare we have a mess on our hands, and I'm going to take a break. And we're going to try to get this straightened out. The person who just came to 3 and said that yours is doing nothing, you need to go straight back there and talk to the people about that. Is anybody else having that problem? If you are, you need to do the same thing.
Microphone number 1.
Yeah, don't just raise your hand. Go to a microphone, and that's how I'll recognize you. All right, 2. And
Mark,
then I'll come to 1. Yeah, go ahead.
Mark Rosso, Epiphany. I had the same did nothing. I just did it again, and it worked fine. I presume I didn't double vote.
Okay.
That was my solution.
Yeah, okay, good. 1?
Microphone number 1. Some of our delegates are getting invalid as a response.
I didn't hear what. Yeah. We're taking a break for all of these reasons. You don't have to convince me. We're taking a break, all right? Let's take a 10-minute break. So come back here at 10:25. How about that?
talk to Brian.
Okay, 3-minute warning. Let's get back to our seats and get back to business. So if you'll round the people up, they're out getting coffee. That would be good. Give them a warning so they can come back in. All right, we're going to begin. Okay, I'll do my best. All right, I want to bring your attention up here to the podium. In the last 5 minutes, we've made a new appointment. An elections manager, Katrina Hamilton, who steps forward all the time in this diocese, do all kinds of things. So she is going to explain kind of where we are and how we're going to go forward. Katrina, thank you.
Thank you. So to reiterate, the first part of voting this morning went just fine, the Dawson Council, everything like that. We are going to start from scratch on the General Convention specifically. So we'll be doing the clergy, so whatever you did before, we're going to do it again. Don't worry about that. This is the first time we're having to do General Convention with the electronic devices, which is why, since we only do this every 3 years. I want to bring your attention to the pages. If you're a page and in the room, can you just kind of like wave your hand around right now? So look around to your nearest page. If you're in the front here, I'm your page. These are the people to go to first if your device has any trouble. So first wave to them and have them come over to you and see if they can help you. We did some training out last night and they've also seen a lot of problems, so they should be able to help most things. The next thing is if we 100% truly cannot get just your personal device to work and you're worried about your vote being recorded, the pages can manually record your vote and we can add it in later with the certification. So that is sort of our last go-to thing if needed. So that's the other reason to get the attention of the page if you're having problems. The issue with being added to the queue should not happen anymore. We've turned off that feature temporarily, so you should only see received. That's always what you're looking for, is the word received. Clarification again, when you vote for General Convention specifically, you got to type in your 3-digit code and then the send button, which is in the upper right of the device, has a little envelope on it. That should get you your received. And once again, if you think you hit the number wrong or whatever, you can do it again. It's whatever the last thing you did before he closes the vote. That will be what counts.
Let me add to that, because what Katrina told me when we were up here is that some people are putting in the 3 numbers and then turning the device off. Stay away from the power button.
Yeah.
It won't work if you turn the device off. That's fairly simple to understand, I think.
In your defense, the power button is in the lower right, where often confirmation buttons are. So I understand people making that mistake, but you want the upper right. That's where the send button is. Like Greg said, when we get the numbers up there, I highly recommend write down the 3 numbers you want to vote for and cross them out as you see received each time. So you're going to do one at a time. That way you can remember which one you did. Does everyone? It's 4. Oh, sorry, 3 digits for 4 people. That's what I meant. Thank you.
Hey, let's thank Katrina. She saves the day all the time.
Judy, also just remind me that while I know you have some favorites, you cannot vote for a person more than once. Yeah. So choose 4 different people, and you can vote for them in any order. It doesn't matter who's first or second.
Yeah, if you do that, you're going to invalidate your vote. That will happen. Don't vote for the same person. Vote for 4 different people. All right. Has that all been sufficiently explained? If so, I'm going to ask that the clergy deputy nominees be put up. Do not start voting until I open the polls. I'm going to give you some time to do again what we did before. Pick the 4 you want, put the number beside them, write them down so that you can have those ready. I'll give you just a little bit to do that. Reminder that Kevin Pearson is still not running. People begged him at the break, and he said no. So he's not running. All right, you got your 4. Okay, you're gonna do your first selection. So you're gonna pick a person, you're gonna put their 3 number code in, you're gonna push send, and you're gonna stop and step away from the device and leave it alone, okay? And look for received on it, okay? Polls are open for the first person you pick. Mine work like clockwork.
10 seconds remaining.
All right, polls are closed. I don't know. Yeah, here we go. Okay, so now we're on to our second selection. Remember, don't vote for the same person you just voted for. Pick your second selection. The polls are open.
Ten seconds remain.
All right, polls are closed. We're going to move to the third selection now. There it is. Polls are open.
Ten seconds remain.
Polls are closed. All right, everybody hold here a second.
Can I get a quick show of hands? Did anyone just try to vote and see sending and not see received? Yeah, so we got a little bit of an issue there. All 3 votes? Okay, let me check them back.
Okay, so for our technical people, that makes some sense because we're looking at the total votes, and we've done well most times to hit 300 out of 416, so some of them are not apparently being registered. Let me ask Katrina, is there a way that they see sending things have been received? How about the treasurer's report? Jim. Are you prepared for the treasurer's report? Yeah. Do you need slides or anything? No. Okay. Be ready. I'm going to call you, I think. Okay. All right, I'm calling that we're gonna cease elections right now until we can have some kind of definitive answer. If we can't get this fixed, even though I was told we have no backup paper ballot, we may have to create one between now and then, but we're gonna see if we can get this fixed. In lieu of that, we're gonna move on with some of the agenda items so we can take this screen down for now. And I'm going to call on your treasurer, Jim Beckwith, to come forward for the treasurer's report and also the report of the budget. Let's welcome him to the podium. He is a great servant for our diocese.
So this is what it's like to be invited to the upper table. Bishop Rickle, delegates and alternates to the Convention of the Diocese of Olympia. It has been an honor serving the diocese this past year as your treasurer. And I want to thank Canon Dede, Canon Arian, the accounting staff, Charles Thorne, Canon for Finance, Edie Pearson, Lori Hardow, and Yeshua Sato. I also want to welcome Christy Chapman as the new chair of Budget and Finance. And I would be remiss if I did not welcome Carla Robinson into the new position of Canon for Multicultural Ministries. As I mentioned last year, the COVID pandemic has brought immense change to how churches and dioceses operate. I, for one, telecommute from Bellingham. Though the diocesan office has reopened, many of our staff still work several days of the week from home. On Wednesdays, Charles, Christy, Dede, Ariane, and I meet by Zoom for an hour to go over any financial questions that may have arisen in the course of a week. Thus, you have our combined knowledge and insights continuously looking over the diocesan finances. This is indeed a time of change. Not only are we learning of the effects of the COVID pandemic on church operations, but we begin the search for a new bishop. Some of you may be wondering, how are we going to pay for this search? Well, back when Bishop Rickle was consecrated, we added a line to the budget to prepare for the next search. By 2017, we had secured more than enough to conduct a search and set those funds aside. We will draw upon that fund. Once we have a new bishop, we will again add a line item to our budget to prepare for the future. Here are some of the issues we've been looking at this past year. The Diocese of Olympia is one of the largest landholders in Western Washington. Thus, we find ourselves, in fact, a property management firm, even though that has never been our intended purpose. So recognizing that fact, the Board of Directors has created a task force to study how other large nonprofits with extensive land holdings, such as universities, manage their properties to improve our procedures. Other groups are looking at the current guide to congregational financial transactions to improve communications with congregations. And another will look at how we conduct loans by the Building and Loan Fund. Now, when the Building and Loan Fund originated, its purpose was to loan to congregations who could not get commercial loans and use the paid interest to build the fund. On the whole, this has worked well. But back in the 90s, there were some loans made optimistically to a few missions that time has proven was too much for them to sustain. This year, the board decided to apply the proceeds from the sale of the Mill Creek property, the former St. Francis Mission, to those underperforming loans to help bring those loans down to where the missions can more successfully handle the debt. Concurrently, this has brought nearly $1 million back into the Building and Loan Fund for future congregational use. We're working closely with the folks at St. Luke's Ballard as they design, develop, and complete their plans for a new church within a high-rise project that will bring 84 permanent affordable housing units into the Ballard neighborhood, along with other low-cost housing. This project has gathered interest and praises nationwide. It is a unique opportunity, and I want to thank Barbara Wilson, Britt Olson, Dennis Tierney, and our chancellors for all the work they have put in. This project will pay for itself and bring an income for the next 100 years through its ground lease while providing St. Luke's with a beautiful new worship and office space. We're also in the closing stages of selling the land of the St. George Lake City property that will bring us $1.6 million. The developer has designed 9 starter homes in a community that will honor the history and families of St. George. The diocese will receive another $500,000 or so as the homes are sold. Though not yet assigned, these funds could, for example, be added to our Building and Loan Fund, the Mission Develop Fund, a new startup for planting new churches, or some form of earth ministry, as we've been talking about, or another need of the diocese. I'd hope to report the success of our audit with BDO, the firm that bought out our longtime and beloved auditors, Peterson Sullivan. We are still awaiting the audit for 2020 that was supposed to be presented to us back in August of last year. Our patience is wearing thin, and we may have to bring our chancellor into action. In the meantime, Clark Newber, our new auditors, are already working with us to complete the 2021 audit, only to wait BDO to finalize their 2020 audit. You have before you the budget for the year 2023, prepared by the Budget and Finance Committee. It maintains the assessment rate of 14.5%, despite increasing the budget by 7%. This is a time of some uncertain change, and we purposely decided not to make cuts that would disrupt any ongoing program, as steady as it goes as we step into the future. You will note the budget includes a cost of living increase of 10.5%. Yes, that is indeed a large increase, but it reflects the rise in the actual expenses of living from June of last year to June of this year. And our employees have already paid out those increases, and we believe it only proper to meet their cost. You will note that the council did not recommend an increase in the assessment rate despite the increase in the budget. We have more than sufficient funds in our reserves to meet these increases during this time of change. However, as a treasurer, I must caution that during this time of change, all of this is predicated upon our employees continuing to manage their expenses, congregations paying their assessments, and the economy remaining strong so that our investments remain healthy. I move to ratify the 2023 budget as presented.
All right, we have a motion on the floor to approve or ratify the 2023 diocesan operating budget. Is there any discussion? All right, seeing none, and we don't have any on Zoom, we're going to do this the old-fashioned way, okay? Somehow I don't think we can screw this up, but maybe we can. All in favor of ratifying the 2023 budget, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? So ordered. We have actually passed something. And there's a poll on Zoom for those of you to vote on that there. That's coming right now. Now, while that's happening, I want to let you know we're going to rearrange up here. We're rearranging the agenda. We're going to move deputation elections to after lunch and, say a novena or something that we'll actually get this done. But we're going to try to vote after lunch on that, and we'll figure this out. But we're going to move forward, so we're going to be juggling around. So I apologize for that, but we're going to try to make headway so that we can move forward. So we're going to start with resolutions, and we'll probably be voting on those the old-fashioned way as well, which I think we can. So I'm going to turn to Jamie, who's going to give us some information on debate and how we're going to handle that.
And all of this has changed, so please bear with me as I stumble through and make sure I get all the corrections and the correct instructions to you. Please, and I look to my partner Brian to jump in if anything else needs to be added. So we are going to go with a hybrid version of our debate instructions today. We are going to participate in debate as in the room. It will be the old-fashioned way. If you have been to one of our in-person conventions before, I'm doing this by memory, so please forgive me if I get it wrong. If you would like to speak during the debate, please move to one of the microphones. The microphones are indicated green for pro, speaking for the resolution or the question, and red for against. If you have mobility issues, please just go to the microphone that is nearest you. When you are called on, when your microphone is called on by the chair, just as we did with the General Convention nominations, please say your name, your congregation name, and what you plan to do, what your intention is to speak for, speak against, or make another motion, etc. And then you may proceed into what you wish to say. You will have 2 minutes to speak, and you will hear a bell when you have 30 seconds remaining in that time. Now, for those online, we will follow you will also be able to participate in the debate and have an opportunity to speak. If you wish to speak, you can use the speak button in your vVoter window, and you can and then it will give you an option of how you wish to speak. I will see that list in front of me and be able to advise the chair that we need to move to listen to someone who is online as well. And you'll be promoted to be a presenter, and you'll need to make sure to be a panelist, and you'll need to accept, click the accept button if you are online to make sure that you can be promoted as a panelist so that we can see and hear you in the room and online. I believe that concludes the instructions.
I'm going to add a couple things.
Thank you.
When in our debate, microphones 1 and 3 will be pro, 2 and 4 will be con. All right, we'll try to be balanced that way. Yes? Oh, what does it say?
2 and 4 are pro, and 1 and 3 are con.
All right, 1 and 3 are con. 2 and 4 are pro.
Mm-hmm. Please follow the colors of the microphones, green and 4, match those old-fashioned red and green cards that we used to have. 2 and 4 are pro, 3 and 1 are con, but if you do have mobility issues, you may go to the microphone closest to you.
I'm colorblind, so the colors are not going to help me or you. And that's why I don't mention those, but so it is. All right, so we're going to enter into debate on resolutions. Also, people that are on Zoom, when we do a raise your hand vote, you'll raise your hand in Zoom. You will raise your hand, that's how you will vote, okay? All right. All right, where do we resolutions? Good. All right, Jed Fox is here. Thank you. He's the chair of the Resolutions Committee. He's going to introduce the report of the committee.
Thank you, Bishop. I want to take just a moment to offer a couple notes of gratitude. I promise to be brief so that we can get to our other business and to the bishop's address, where I'm looking forward to our resigning bishop telling us that he likes more than half of us twice as well as we deserve. First, I want to thank the other members of the Resolution Committee, the Reverend Rilla Barrett, Micah Kurtz, and Mary Maxon. They make this job very easy and lower my nerves in succeeding the estimable Reverend Jonathan Weldon in this position. Second, I want to thank you. Whether you submitted a resolution or took the time to think critically about them in advance of this meeting. As many of you know, the first recorded minutes of a church convention can be found in the Acts of the Apostles. And since the Council of Jerusalem, we've gathered together in faith, and purportedly, in the case of St. Nicholas, fisticuffs, to discern the will of God's Spirit for the actions, beliefs, and governments of God's people on the journey to God's kingdom. Blessedly, rather than haymakers, we have resolutions to guide our discernment. But resolutions can only help our discernment if they are submitted and given serious consideration by you. And so I thank all of you for your work. And with that, the committee moves resolution number 1, the 2024 assessment rate. Resolved that this 112th Convention of the Diocese of Olympia approve the recommendation of the Diocesan Council that the 2024 diocesan assessment rate factor be set at 14.5% of the net disposable income. The committee recommends do pass.
Thank you, Jed. This comes out of committee, so it doesn't need a second. Is there further discussion? I see none on the floor. We see none on Zoom.
Correct.
And so we will go straight to a vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Or if you're on Zoom, raise your hand. Any opposed? No. The resolution number 1 is adopted. Jed, you can carry on with resolution 2.
The committee moves resolution number 2, cost of living adjustment for 2023. Resolved that this 112th Convention of the Diocese of Olympia set the cost of living adjustment for 2023 parochial clergy salary scale in the Office of the Bishop Staff salary scale at 10.1%. The committee makes no recommendation.
Okay, it's on the floor. It requires no second, so we will call for discussion now, and I recognize microphone 4.
Jennifer Doherty from St. Mark's, Seattle. I'm a member of the Personnel Commission, and I'm speaking in favor of the resolution. Each year, the Personnel Commission must propose a cost of living adjustment for the following year by July so that the diocesan budget can be drafted. While this COLA only canonically applies to the clergy and diocesan staff salary scale, it's used broadly and equitably for parish staff salaries as well. So it has real impact, and we take that responsibility seriously. The resolution gives detail on the local consumer price index that the Commission consistently tracks. It captures 66% of our diocese directly and 90% when considering counties adjacent to the measured area. This year, the increase in costs for food, shelter, transportation, and other basic needs was 10.1%. This is a startling number, It is the biggest increase in 30 years. As we saw inflation growing this year, the Commission had long conversations about the strain of increased costs on parish budgets and whether there was an ethical way to recommend something less than this COLA. After all, the national CPI increase, which Social Security uses, is only 8.7%. Why not use that? Because that is not just. Costs in Western Washington are higher than the national average. Since last year, food costs here are up 11% and transportation 19%. Our people have been shouldering these higher costs with fixed compensation. Practically, their living wage has eroded by 10%. And if we want to attract talented people in the future, we need to offer on-market compensation. So the Commission recommends a 10.1% increase. It's the only way to ensure economic justice for those employed by the church. There are some signs that inflation might be stabilizing, so the COLA next year could be very small. Like in 2020, it was less than 1%. This is a challenging economic time for sure, but I'm glad we're in it together. Thank you.
Thank you. Microphone 3.
My name is Tom Agnew. I'm from St. Andrews, Tacoma. I've spent 2 sleepless nights pondering this resolution. It's difficult to get up and speak against raises without coming across as though we don't appreciate our clergy, and I think that's very, very far from the truth. But the fact of the matter is we also have our own economic realities to deal with within our parishes. Certainly we do within St. Andrews. And the fact of the matter is that clergy are not alone in having to continue to pay more for groceries, housing, food, and having and sensing a loss of their income. In my own parish, 72% of our parishioners are 65 and over. The vast majority of us are on fixed incomes. We get no COLAs for those, save the 8.7% for Social Security, a 40-year bump since that has happened. So the problem is, where are we going to get this money? When I look at our budget, 61% of our budget goes out to salaries and benefits. Hidden in this is that there's an 18% retirement benefit that we also have to pay. Industry standard is 6% in a non-guaranteed investment. So I don't know what to say to this. I don't know what to go back to my people who are hurting as well. I don't know what to say when we say we want young families and we want kids so we can grow the church, and young families with children don't have a lot of disposable income to give to the church. So I don't know how to answer this. I do know that if you take the 5.4, I believe it was last year, % increase, and you add this increase to it.
I'm going to have to ask you to stop. Thank you. We have 2 on Zoom that are now on to speak to us on this. Kendall, go ahead.
Kendall Haynes, St. Matthew, Browns Point, Tacoma. This is I think a resolution of reckoning for our situation in our diocese for a lot of parishes. Coming out of the pandemic, it's just been hard enough. And then having this increase. When this resolution is presented, I will probably vote for it, though it is a day of reckoning for us, and we need to talk very seriously about how this is going to impact our stations going forward for the next 10 years as the predominant generation that's supporting the church begins to decline, and rapidly so. I don't know exactly how to address this increase, but I know in my parish it equates to 3 to 5 extra pledges as pledges are going down and rapidly. And so it really is going to be, frankly, a resolution of reckoning that we can see, certainly locally. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Kendall. We have another Zoom speaker, and then we'll go to microphones in here. We're trying to be as they come up. So we have a Zoom speaker. Is that Nancy?
I assume that's
yes.
me. Yeah.
Go right
Nancy
ahead.
Steffens from St. Andrews in Port Angeles, Washington. And again, our congregation is quite elderly as well. I happen to be married to our treasurer, so I know that more than 80% of our congregation is dependent on Social Security as their total source of income. And the valid points have been made about trying to attract people to our churches, but I don't think we can sustain more than an 8.7% increase, and I'm not even sure we can match that. So I will be voting against the resolution. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Nancy. I'm going to microphone 1 and then 3.
Dilcia Brand from Church of the Good Shepherd Federal Way. I just want to say that.
Lean into the mic a little bit more so we can all hear you. Yeah.
I just want to say that in this diocese we have been blessed over the years to be able to increase the salary of our clergy, and we have to take that in consideration in terms of the situation that we have presently, where it has been mentioned, everyone is feeling this recession. Everyone is feeling it. So talking about justice overall, something that we are trying to achieve, we have to keep that in mind when we come up with the number of increase in salary. Yes, we do appreciate all that our priest does and so forth, but we can't do this blindly. The congregation, the general population, is not able to sustain a 10.1% increase. I don't even know if they were able to sustain an 8.7 increase. So I call to everyone consciousness, although we would like to do that, in this day and age, in this time, is not something that is feasible. And I'm just asking for you to pray on that and consider that.
Okay, thank you. Microphone 3.
Marlene Jacobs, St. Luke's, Tacoma. Yeah, I just want to say that I feel this is not sustainable for the church. And I feel like it's also not a good witness to have clergy receive a cost of living adjustment that most of our congregation is not even going to come near. Thank you.
Thank you. Microphone 1.
Robert Chapman, Church of the Redeemer, Kenmore. I rise to speak against the motion because that's only one of the 2 choices I'm given. I'm not really against it, but we have to recognize what's going to happen to this is if this is approved, many congregations are going to have to go to part-time clergy. We can feel good about this all we want. And trust me, I want my rector to have money. It's not where, where I am, where I'm doing my, see our budgeting at home, what have you. The simple solution is we have full-time clergy now. They're going to become part-time if this passes. Thank you.
Thank you. Microphone 4.
Steve Thomason, St. Mark's Cathedral. I speak in favor of the motion, not because I haven't had sleepless nights as well, or that I haven't also processed similar to the comments that have been made speaking against the motion. It is a difficult thing for us to do. But at the end of the day, when I look at our newest priest and I try to figure out how we pay her a living wage in the city of Seattle, knowing that the cost of living for her and her family to live there is over 10%, I don't know how I cannot, in good conscience, support this. And then if I drive that through and our commitment at the cathedral to have parity for all lay staff as well, I can't look at our sexton or our person who works with the sound or the live stream and say that there is not a way that we can afford to give you the wage that will keep you at the same level of purchasing power for you and your family. And so there is no way to speak of this in a just way rather than to figure out that we've got to do this. I speak in favor of the motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Microphone 1.
The Reverend Josh Hostler, Church of the Good Shepherd, Federal Way.
Throughout the pandemic, my watchword has been to show grace wherever possible and in every possible way, and to recognize that the whole situation has been difficult for all of us, and everybody has to give some. I spoke in favor of going with the standard COLA when we were polled at the clergy conference, and I have changed my mind as I look at our budget numbers and as I look at our annual campaign for this year, which projects a $50,000 deficit. That would be 1/6 of the budget that we want to propose. Now, at Good Shepherd, we have reserves. We can do that. We'll be okay. Many congregations would not. I hope that somebody might propose an amendment for a lower number, someone who is more practiced at this than I, and that perhaps we could debate that. But in the meantime, I think my treasurer brought up 8.7 as a darn good possibility, because at least that is a measured COLA increase regarding Social Security, and at least that's on par with the income of so many of our parishioners. Thank you.
Thank you. Microphone 4.
Querent, St. Matthew San Mateo in Auburn. I do believe firmly that paying a living wage in its fullness to our clergy is the most economically just thing that we can do. And I do have faith that choosing justice will be rewarded by God, that it will provide our clergy with the ability to dedicate themselves fully to serving our community, which will bring in more people, and more people brings in more support. And I guess would like to emphasize again, I do believe that choosing what is just, I have faith that that will be rewarded by God. So yeah, that's it.
Thank you. Microphone 1.
Don Gothier, St. George's, Maple Valley. I call the question.
All right, the question's been called. Our vote now is whether to cease debate. That's all we're voting on. We're not voting on the resolution. We're voting on ceasing debate. If you vote for this, we will cease debate and go straight to a vote. If you vote against it, we will continue debating. Does everybody understand what we're voting on? All right. All in favor of ceasing debate, say aye. Aye. Opposed?
No.
All right. All in favor of ceasing debate, raise your hand. Pages, we're going to need you now.
Those of you online, please raise your hand.
We're counting online. If the pages let me know when we have this room counted, then we will go on. It does require 2/3 to cease debate, so it's important that we get this count right. And since we're doing this the old-fashioned way, if there's anybody listening that would like to be a page, doesn't have something else to do, the pages are recruiting right now. I'll let you give me that once we have this. Do not put your hand down until a page tells you to do so, or you will not be counted. see. I don't think it's. All right, the pages, once you have your totals, bring them to Katrina right here in the center of the room so we can tally all of this. We need this number before we go on. Do we have a calculator?
No. I'm going to if they let me. Point of order.
Yes, go ahead, Josh.
Point of order. I just want to clarify what I believe is happening, which is that if we end debate at this point, then we must vote on the resolution as presented.
That's correct.
Which means that either we will
no,
have a...
I have to stop you.
Okay.
We don't debate this right now.
Okay.
You are correct, but we don't debate it.
All right.
Second point of order.
Yes?
This is a 2/3 vote, isn't it? My eye count was that this is 50-50. Are we going
That's
to be
good. You're not chairing the meeting. I am, so...
I stand corrected, Bishop.
All right. We do not need to take the vote. It fails, so we continue debate. We go to microphone 4.
Rachel Endicott from St. Paul's in Bellingham. I have two things. I will try and be brief. First, this is not just about clergy. This is about, for many congregations, all staff. As a congregation that just hired almost all new staff because of COVID and changes and people going to seminary and people retiring and a variety of things, if we do not offer something competitive, you will have no staff at your churches. Secondly, I will talk about myself. I have worked in large churches. I have been paid a fair wage. I have taken congregations of my own choice that did not pay full time. When my 2 children were in college, I got a job. I dropped being a volunteer and took a paid, I got certified as a lifeguard. I was a lifeguard and taught swim lessons. And I still do that 1 shift a week because I also love it and it's a different way to save people's lives. And About 3 months ago, the nonprofit club at which I guard gave all the lifeguards cost of living raises just to keep up with what our living is, that was above 10.1%, because it was the just thing for them to do.
All right, thank you. Microphone 3.
Good morning. Gordon Craig from Christ Church, Tacoma. And I would like to offer an amendment on the lines that Josh Hostler mentioned. And the amendment would state that the recommended increase is between 8.7 and 10.1%. I'll wait for a second, and I'd like to speak to the motion.
All right, that's fine. You need to provide the text of that up here to the front table.
I have a second to that. My name
Right.
is Sarah from St. Bede, Port Orchard.
Okay, we have a motion and a second, so we'll be debating the amendment. We'll restate the amendment as soon as we have it, and we will be debating that. May I suggest, if you make an amendment today, that you do this ahead of time, if at all possible. It's not always possible, but try to do that. It will speed it up some. So the amendment would read that this 112th Convention of the Diocese of Olympia set the recommended cost of living adjustment for 2023 parochial clergy salary scale and office of the bishop salary scale between 8.7 and 10.1%. And we have a second. We're debating that amendment. All right, I'll go to 4.
Hello, Keith Dorwick here, deacon from St. Andrews, Port Angeles. I'd like, at this point, we're doing the vote for, it's on.
Get closer to it.
Oh.
Lean into the mic, please.
Thank you. I will. I'm going to pass until it is time to debate the previous motion, if that should change.
Okay, please we don't need to hear that you're going to do that. So come to the microphone if you want to debate this amendment. If you don't want to, go sit down or back away from the mic. Okay? Thank you.
Point of order.
Number 1. Okay, point of order.
The original proposer asked for a second and then asked for time to speak to the amendment and didn't receive that time.
All right, he can do that.
Thank you very much. Once again, Gordon Craig from Christ Church, Tacoma. I would love to support the resolution as presented by the resolution committee. I really would. However, it's become clear that although 10.1% is a good idea, 8.7 may be a fallback good idea, that our congregations need the flexibility to adapt to their local situations, and I'd like to see us give them that. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Sorry I did not give you that chance. Number 1, microphone number 1.
Yes, I'm going to debate that even 8.7 to 10.1 may be a little bit still too high. We have to consider that if we're talking about, I'm just going to pick a number out the hat, 2,000 people or even 3,000 people to be benefited by this increase, we're talking about millions of people that are in peril, let's put it that way. And those are the people that are going to need to support the resolution that we're proposing here today. So take the people that are going to fuel this bucket in consideration, and not just the fact that this deserve it, that all of us deserve to have a adjustment that is equitable. But unfortunately, that's not possible. So as a church body, talking about what is the most just thing to do, and we are called to make sacrifices sometimes, then we need to keep that in consideration. What do we stand for? Thank you.
Thank you. A reminder that we are speaking to this amendment and not to the whole resolution, the amendment. We have a speaker on Zoom, so I'm going to call on them now. I believe it's Kendall.
Kendall Haynes, St. Matthew, Browns Point, Tacoma. With regard to this amendment, I speak for it, at least in spirit, to actually offer an adjustment of some sort, because next year, honestly, is not going to be a whole lot different, as inflation numbers are still going to be probably between 5 and 10% along those lines. I'm prepared to offer an amendment as well, but I would wait until that time for that offering. But I do think that if there is any sort of adjustment down for clergy, it should be recommended overtly from this convention that lay employees stay at the 10.1, though not enforceable, for the justice here to prevail. I'm concerned that this is turning into one of those old-fashioned valuation commentary conversations about the worth of clergy that can happen in parishes when negotiating the numbers. And I'm concerned about that tone eking into this conversation accidentally, of course.
Okay, thank you. Microphone 2.
Hi, I'm Megan Barrett, representing Christchurch and Acordes. I think my question is that would we be able to kind of slowly progress to this, or are we going to be moving right into this? But either way, I think I could support it if we could do 8.7 to 10.1, because I think some churches could do 8.7 to start out and then slowly move up. Thank you.
Thank you. Microphone 3.
Nigel Tabor Hamilton, St. John's in Snohomish. I was just speaking with the proposer about this. I'm opposed to this amendment. Generally, the amendment is okay as far as I'm concerned. I don't have an opinion one way or the other. But the word recommended means that a congregation could say, well, it's a recommendation. We're not going to provide any increase. And in the past, and I've been here 22 years, we have always used the word set. And so I just asked the proposer, and he is unwilling to remove the word recommended. So I would propose that we vote against this because it is set as a recommendation and not a requirement. Thank you.
Number 4, microphone 4.
Eric Matthews, Grace Bainbridge. I am in favor of the minor amendment that's just been mentioned. That makes more sense than the current amendment.
Thank you. Microphone 1.
Joyce Rumey, St. Clements. I have a question that was partially brought up in 2 speakers ago, and that is if the amendment is worded recommended between those 2 figures, does each congregation then have the authority to set their own figure of what the congregation can sustain? And I would just add to that as well that in our little congregation, a great many of us were considerably underemployed or unemployed through COVID, and as the people who would fund the increase, that will be a strong consideration, even with the amendment. Thank you.
Thank you. Microphone 2.
Good morning. I'm Declan Jari from St. Paul's by the Salish Sea in Bremerton. Mine's more a point of order, sir. Since we have proven that we can use our voting devices to do single issues, might it be possible for us to vote on these yes or no, up and down things with our automatic voting devices rather than resorting to the green or red? Because we all have beloved clergy at our table. No one, I believe no one in their heart would want to deny them anything, but this is a private matter which we must feel. I'm just asking, since it's up and down, can we use our voting dials?
Thank you. Microphone 3.
R.C. Laird, St. John's in Olympia. I ask the parliamentarian to please forgive me. I move an amendment to the amendment that the original text be reinstated with the exception of line 3, which be changed to 8.7%. If seconded, I'd like to speak to it.
All right, do I have a second? We do have a second. If you will speak to it and then also bring it up here so that we have it.
Absolutely. What I've moved just now for clarification is that we restore the original amendment, the original resolution, but that we adjust the number 10.1% to 8.7%. It strikes me that in my read of the room and of the comments that have been made thus far,
Okay, I'm going to have to stop you. The parliamentarian says this is not germane to the amendment and it's out of order.
Well. May I stand in the wings in case
Yes.
debate is ended on this, and then I can make a different amendment?
You may stand anywhere you'd like to in this room. Sorry to do that, but I do what my parliamentarian tells me. So, all right. Do we have other discussion on this amendment as it stands? Yes, one.
Jedediah Fox, Church of the Redeemer in Kenmore. I believe that the amendment fails the KISS perspective. Keep it simple, super simple.
Thanks for cleaning it up.
You're very welcome. If the amender is seeking flexibility, then that flexibility is found in voting against the original proposal. If people want to vote for what they believe is a justice principle in giving the 10.1% raise, then you vote for the original resolution. Adding this wiggle word of recommend means, I believe, and I'm sure greater minds can tell me I'm wrong, but that the whole salary scale becomes merely a recommendation. And that is not our goal here. That's an entirely different concept. But because that word is in there, now it becomes a possibility and something that congregations could argue, and I don't think that's what we want to do.
All right, thank you. Microphone 1, I'll go back to you.
Josh Hostler, Good Shepherd, and I call the question on the amendment.
So I don't see anybody else that wants to speak to this, so we can go straight to a vote on this amendment, actually. And so we're going to try to do that first by voice, and then we'll see where we are. All that are in favor of the amendment as it's proposed, say aye. Aye. Those opposed? No. I rule that it's failed. We are back on debate of the resolution as it was put forth originally. And I will go back to 3.
R.C. Laird, St. John's, San Juan, Olympia. I move amendment of the resolution to strike line 3 and replace it with the number 8.7% period.
All right, very good. That's in order. Aren't you glad to hear that? And you may speak
Amen.
to it. Well, let me get a second. We got a second. Go ahead and speak to it, R.C.
I'd like to start by asking the forgiveness of my clergy colleagues because I am uncomfortable asking for an adjustment like this because I know how hard now is for everyone. At the same time, my mom, who lives on Social Security, is going to get 8.7%. And I realize that I feel like that is as much as I can ask for as a mandatory adjustment. I would like to speak specifically to all the lay people in the room right now. You can give your clergy a larger COLA increase than what is voted on today. You do not have to give people a certain COLA increase because that's what the resolution says. This offers enough flexibility for congregations to offer relief for those who cannot afford a 10.1% increase, and it does not bind the hands of any congregation in the diocese. Nor indeed does it bind the hands of council to make an adjustment in December for the diocesan staff. So, thank you.
Thank you very much. As I hear it, make sure, RC, before you walk away, the only amendment you're making is to change the percentage in this line.
That is correct, sir.
Correct. Okay, will you bring that? I don't think you got to bring it up. I think we can fill it in. It's 8.7%? Yes, all right. So if anybody wants to debate that amendment, bringing this to 8.7%, that's what we'll debate now. We have none online, and we have none in the room that I see, so we're going to vote on this amendment. It is a change to 8.7% from the 10.1 that's on there. That's the change we're voting on now. All in favor of that amendment, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Nay. So ordered. It is passed. All right, now we're back on the full resolution with that change to it, that amendment. Microphone 2.
Sabeth Fitzgibbons, Trinity, Seattle, and Chair of the Diocesan Commission on Personnel. I have mixed feelings about speaking to this amended resolution. However, I would like to clarify that as we change the minimums in the scale, we are changing only the set points in the scale. We are changing the minimum pay for our curates who come in at the bottom of the scale. We're changing pay for people with 5 years of ordination who are required to be paid 80% of the midpoint. And we are changing pay for people who are paid at the midpoint. And for my colleagues who have more than 10 years of ordained experience, I sure hope that you've negotiated yourself above the midpoint. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Microphone 1.
Josh Hostler, Good Shepherd Federal Way. It occurs to me, as I'm speaking against this resolution still, it occurs to me that the situation is so different for very different clergy in different situations. As a full-time rector in a congregation with an endowment and with a spouse who is also working, my COLA could be 0, and that would be fine with me this year. I do think that that should be an option if there are situations in which that's appropriate. It may be, and I want to check on this, that if we vote this resolution down, then there is a 0% mandatory cost of living increase for clergy, and that we can take this up again next year. This year, it would be up to the congregations to do whatever they're going to do with COLA, and next year we would get back on track with a required COLA. If I am incorrect, somebody please point that out, but I believe that's where we are, and that's why I would like to vote down this resolution and give the congregations the power this year to make their own decisions about it.
Thank you. Microphone 4.
My name is the Reverend Elizabeth Riley. I am the rector at Emmanuel Church. I voted against the amendment, but since this is where we are at, in the face of an option of 0%, I would like to speak in favor of it. And I'm reminded of what we have heard every Sunday for many weeks now from the Gospel of Luke about economic justice. And that The example of what the government and the empire shows us as justice is rarely reflective of what the kingdom of God is meant to be. The fact that people are not receiving wage increases in our congregations is unjust, and we should not pass that injustice on or model it as what we want the standard to be. My hope is that we as the church continue to reflect the kingdom of God, and that we do not give in to continually asking folks to receive less, but live into the abundance that we preach and that we hear in our Gospels. Thank you.
Thank you. Before I go to the next microphone, I'm going to ask people that are doing noonday prayer to get up here if you're not up here and be ready. Eventually we're going to go to that. I'd ask you to do that. And I'll call on microphone 3.
Peter St. John, Trinity Parish, Seattle. I'd like to stand against the proposed and offer an alternate amendment, and I'd like the opportunity to speak on its behalf.
Just state your amendment.
The amended that this 112th Convention of the Diocese of Olympia set the cost of living adjustment for 2023 parochial clergy scale be set at 5.4%, with a recommendation that parishes approve a 10.1% increase where feasible.
All right, you've heard the amendment. If you'll bring that up here.
May I speak to its behalf?
Yes, you can if we get a second. Do I have a second? All right, I have a second. You can speak to it.
I think we have to ask ourselves each day, how do we serve justice? Is what we do just? And I do believe it's just to provide a 10.1% cost of living increase to our clergy. I also think it's justice and just to ask ourselves, what do we ask of our parishioners? Most of us don't see that type of increase. We're all suffering from inflation. We're looking at a recession in the eye. We're watching layoffs from the biggest employers in the area. And we're asking ourselves, how do we thrive with our families? To ask for an increase of 10.1% is to do justice with one hand and to take from our parishioners with the other. It will end up with underserved parishes, parishes who have to move to part-time clergy, and parishes who would have to see a significant increase in revenue, which we know that they won't, just to maintain the same level of services that exist today in our churches. I'd like to do justice by asking that we share the burden and that we ask our parishes to make choices for themselves. In my own parish, where I know that we're served by an endowment, I would happily vote to provide a 10.1 increase to staff, but I can't ask others to do so.
It's time. Okay, thank you. You'll give the amendment. We're now debating the amendment, so if you're at a microphone and you don't want to speak to this amendment, you need to step back from the microphone, please, so that I can tell who wants to speak to the amendment. Microphone 3.
Nigel Tabor Hamilton, St. John's in Snohomish. I'm retired. I receive Social Security, and I'm receiving an 8.7% increase. The vast majority of the parishioners of my congregation and of many of our congregations are receiving the same. And whether that's enough in this area or not is debatable. I believe that's an appropriate figure. And I would say, in addition, that what we're really doing here is trying to kick the can down the road. This problem that we're all facing has been coming for years, and the pandemic has simply made it now. We need to start making decisions that reflect restructuring the nature of the church, and we can't do that right now at this convention. So I would propose that we pass the resolution as it's now written. I know I'm speaking against the amendment. And then we also set up some sort of process so that we can think about how to restructure our communities so that we can thrive. Because otherwise, what we're doing right now is simply hospice work.
Thank you. Microphone 4.
John Austin from St. Andrews in Tacoma. Sorry. I'm in favor of the amendment for one reason. It allows us to, in a sense, index the cost or the increase to the geographical area of the diocese, being a large diocese with diversity of populations. The other consideration is the folks who are not on fixed incomes, those who have regular employment and perhaps have some of their value through the stock market, have lost significant amount of income and personal wealth and won't get an increase from the government. So for some of us, it will be more difficult to fund even 5%, but I like the flexibility of 5 to 10%.
Thank you. We don't. Kendall, do you want to speak to this online?
Yes, please. Kendall Haynes, St. Matthew, Browns Point, Tacoma. I actually like the lowered percentage of this current amendment, but I absolutely do not think it's wise to create a variable percentage for COLA adjustments. The reason being is that it will create a further disparity between small congregations and large congregations, endowed and non-endowed, et cetera. Because what are you going to do next year? Do you start at the point that was the high or the low of that range and then bring it back to a singular percentage? I appreciated Garcia's amendment because it just created a straight amount. And then, of course, it's a range. It really fixes the midpoint of the range. You can pay more or more, certainly not less if there's the right structuring for the amount of time the clergy has served. But a variable range, I think, is a major mistake at this point. I'd take 0 over a variable range. Thank you.
Thank you. Microphone 4.
Sarah from St. Bede, Port Orchard. I'm retired. I'm going to get an 8.7 increase. My daughter, who works, got a 5% raise this year. She's got one child in a boarding school because of his disabilities. She's got another in college and one in school here in West Seattle. She can't afford to give. Her situation is entirely different than mine. A lot of people have different situations. If your congregation is lucky enough to have young working people, remember, they're not getting an 8.7% raise. Many of them are not even getting a 3% raise. We've got to watch out for our younger people, or we're not going to have a church.
Thank you. RC, number 1.
RC there at St. John San Juan, having put through a resolution that hurts the clergy in some regard, I wanted to speak in their favor in regards to this amendment. I have been an ordained priest for it'll be 13 years, and I have never once received a merit increase in my pay. And I'm willing to bet that none of the rest of the clergy at your tables have either. I would invite you to ask them. Our salaries get set when we get hired, and as a convention of the church, we get cost of living adjustments every year because the diocese makes the congregations do so. I am not saying that to complain. I'm simply saying that as we talk about young families and about working people in our congregations, we have to remember that our clergy and staff are among them, and that I have 4 kids at home. I'm trying to raise a family and serve faithfully in the church, and I am not the only one here in the room. And so I speak against this amendment. Thank you.
All right, thank you, RC. I see no one else at the mic, no one's on Zoom, so we're going to a vote on this amendment. So we're voting on the amendment. I think we may have a slide, but if not, I'll read it to you. That this 112th Convention of the Diocese of Olympia set the cost of living adjustment, here it is, for 2023 parochial clergy salary. That's not right. Don't read what's up there. Listen to me and don't put another slide up, please. That this 112th Convention of the Diocese of Olympia set the cost of living adjustment for 2023 parochial clergy scale be set at 5.4%, with recommendation that parishes approve a 10.1 increase where feasible. That's what we're voting on. If you're for that amendment, say aye. Aye. If you're against it, say no. No. The amendment fails. We're back on the resolution as it was presented originally and amended. I'll remind you it was amended to 8.7 earlier.
Call a question.
All right, the question's been called. Are you debating that? You can't debate that, Joseph. Okay. So we're going to go straight to a vote on calling the question. Actually, we don't have any debate about that or any questions about it. No, we still have to vote. All right, all in favor of it ceasing debate, say aye. Aye. Opposed?
No.
Debate is ceased. We go straight to a vote on the resolution. And this is it that's up on the slide. This is as it stands now. This was the amendment that was made. We're not debating it. We're going straight to a vote. I'll let you read it for a second, and then we're going to vote on it. Okay. There's going to be a pause between here so we can count the Zoom votes. So that's the only reason there's a pause. All in favor of this resolution as it stands before you now, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We're going to let the Zoom no's chime in here, and then we'll make a decision. Okay, we're going to do it again. All in favor of this resolution as it is, please say aye.
Aye.
We're waiting now to get the votes from Zoom. They're much slower. All right. Any opposed, same sign. The resolution passes. I'm going to call on the secretary now for announcements.
For those who have a role in the Eucharist and ordination, when we break for lunch, please meet at the font before you go to lunch. This includes priests, deacons, Eucharistic ministers, ordinands, and their presenters and vestors, oblation bearers, and readers.
All right, sounds like everybody but someone who's just going to participate needs to be at the font in just a little bit. All right, we're going to go to noonday prayers, and I call on Reverend Stephen Crippen to begin our prayers.
Welcome to Midday Worship. For those participating in person, please open the worship booklet to page 23. Page 23. For those worshiping with us remotely, Saturday Midday Worship may be found on the convention website and on the convention liturgies page. Please rise as you are able. O God, make speed to save us. Give praise to the holy and undivided Trinity, one God, as it was in the beginning, is now, and will be forever. Amen. blessed spring, where wood and sign embrace us into Christ the vine. Here Christ enjoins each one to be a branch of his vine through summer heat of youthful years, uncertain faith, rebellious tears, sustained by Christ's infusing rain, bells will shout for joy when autumn cools and youth is old, when limbs their harvest hold, and through us warm the Christ will move, gives of Christ holy vine, Christ living tree, we praise for this blessed mystery. Good and raw to thus revive and join us to your tree. Please be seated. Give ear, O shepherd of Israel, you who lead Joseph like a flock. You brought a vine out of Egypt. You drove out the nations and planted it. You cleared the ground for it. It took deep root and filled the land. Turn again, O God of hosts. Look down from heaven and see. Have regard for this vine, the stock that your right hand has planted. O God, our gracious shepherd, you so tend the vineyard you planted, that now it extends its branches even to the farthest coast. Look with mercy on your church and be present in our midst. Help us remain in your Son as branches on the vine, that planted firmly in your love we may testify before the world to your great power working everywhere. We ask this through Christ our Savior, who lives and reigns with you and the Holy Spirit, one God, forever and ever.
A reading from John. I am the true vine, and my Father is the vine grower who removes every branch in me that bears no fruit. Every branch that bears fruit will be pruned to make it bear more fruit. Abide in me as I abide in you. Just as the branch cannot bear fruit by itself unless it abides in the vine, neither can you unless you abide in me. I am the vine, You are the branches. If you keep my commandments, you will abide in my love. Just as I have kept my Father's commandments and abide in his love. I have said these things to you so that my joy may be in you and your joy may be complete.
Hear what the Spirit is saying to God's people. Please rise as you are able. Jesus, remember us in your kingdom and teach us to pray. Our Father in heaven, hallowed be your name. Your kingdom come, your will be done, on earth as in heaven. Give us today our daily bread. Forgive us our sins as we forgive those who sin against us. Save us from the time of trial, and deliver us from evil. For the kingdom, the power, and the glory are yours, now and forever. Amen. Life-giving God, send your Holy Spirit into our hearts to comfort us in our afflictions, to defend us from all error, and to lead us into all truth. Through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen. May Christ dwell in our hearts through faith.
Okay, we are definitely behind, but we are going to recess now until 1 o'clock sharp. 1 o'clock. We're in recess.
Sidewalk and strut with you. Strutting in the morning, strutting the noon. Strutting in nighttime under the moon. Hey you, I like you too. And do you mind if I strut